For more information about EFT, muscle testing, working with Eloisa, and to download a free version of the Ramos Clearing Technique, visit www.healingwitheft.com.
Welcome everyone to today's program. My name is Eloisa Ramos, and I'm very happy to be presenting the Ramos Clearing Technique for you today. For those of you that are listening live, if you would like to ask questions at the end, I have a phone number that you can call in. You can also listen to the program by phone, and that number is area code 347-213-6833, and I'll repeat that, 347-213-6833, and then you can press 1 and I will be able to unmute you. I would like to start by just giving you a little background first on this technique. This is a technique that has been evolving since I began looking for shortcuts to EFT about 6 years ago. And it was when I started doing surrogate EFT for my mother who has Alzheimer's. And also I started working with children who were too young to be able to communicate verbally the problem that they were experiencing. And so for this reason, I started using the self-muscle testing to try to find the energy disruptions, whether they were emotions, beliefs, physical sensations, things like that. Initially, with my mother, I was spending hours a day doing the EFT tapping for what I found with the muscle testing. So I started making shortcuts to save time. I let one round of tapping be equal to just tapping on the chest, for example. This is similar to what a shortcut icon on your desktop window is doing. With one click, it saves us a number of steps that would otherwise take us many keystrokes and clicks. As I learned and received insights from practicing EFT and learning about other methods, how they work a little bit, methods like the Sedona method, Byron Katie's The Work, Access Consciousness, Heal Now, and others, the Ramos Clearing Technique changed and evolved into what we have now. However, what has not changed is its foundational idea, which comes from Lesson 110 of A Course in Miracles, and says, I am as God created me. Lesson 110 says that this idea has the healing, quote, the healing power of today's idea is limitless. It is the birthplace of all miracles, the great restorer of the truth to the awareness of the world. And so with this idea, we are willing to accept that we are not separate from the one source of all creative power and life, and are therefore oneself. This acceptance helps us release or clear our problems because, as A Course in Miracles points out, there are not many different types of problem. There is just one, and it's the one problem of separation. The idea that we are separate from our Creator and others is a denial of spiritual truth, and this denial is what sickness is. The miracle brings healing precisely because it establishes truth in our mind. It reminds us basically of what is the truth. Healing is the result of such miracle-mindedness. Techniques like EFT, the Ramos Clearing Technique, and others that use questions help us to open our mind to correction. I see them like training wheels that we put on a bicycle to help a child learn to ride a bike. Once a child gets practice and learns, we take the training wheels off because they are no longer necessary. What I value about these techniques is not only that they give us results, but they are also retraining or reminding our mind how to focus and use our attention and intention consciously to shift our perception and then watch the effects of this shift reflected back in our experiences and what we see in the world. In the persistent practice of these techniques, with my study of A Course in Miracles, what I have come to recognize is the fundamental truth that our mind is powerful and the cause of everything we perceive and experience in the world. And this is what A Course in Miracles teaches. This is why I want my mind to take guidance only from the Holy Spirit, or what we term higher guidance. This choice is what will place our mind in the service of the Holy Spirit and is how we rest in God, meaning we trust fully that we are safe and loved by the universe in the present moment. In this, we are choosing heaven and accepting atonement. And you can refer to lessons 138 and 139 for more on that. As such, we want to use these techniques and methods to help us keep our attention in the present moment, where we can experience our one self and perceive a reality that reflects truth and is not false. Anytime our attention is in the past or future, which is our imagination, we are perceiving falsely because our conscious awareness is not perceiving the present moment, but is lost in past memories or future imaginings. These can feel real, and we can believe they are real, but they have no reality in the present moment. The past is over and done with, and the future is not yet here. Only what is in the present has reality. A Course in Miracles distinguishes between true and false thoughts. It says that thoughts are not good or bad, but only true or false. And it is not easy to distinguish between the false from the true when our attention is not in the present moment and we are identified with the false thoughts, believing them real. We also have defenses that do a very good job of keeping our mind stuck in the past or future and in identification with false ideas. The defenses that I have found that take our attention out of the present moment are polarity reversal, split mind, which splits our attention, dissociation, which is separation from our body, survival mode, and identification, attachment to ego and body. And I will explain these a little further when I go over the Ramos Clearing flowchart. The latest of the flowcharts of the Ramos Clearing Technique addresses these defenses because they keep us from seeing that we are denying the truth. They're like blinders. And if we cannot see the denial, we cannot release it, and our mind will not see reality as it is because our attention will not be in the present moment. It will be looking at memories or images or associated emotions that are connected to the past or the future. This I was able to see when I was clearing something and realized that when I tuned into the energy disruption, which was the suffering that I was feeling, my attention was not in the present moment where reality is. Our one self cannot suffer, and what suffers is not our one self. And I have mentioned this in previous programs. How, when you tap, you can begin to recognize that that which is suffering is not really you. Furthermore, when we experience any type of energy disruption like fear, physical pain, emotional suffering, etc., our attention will be in the past, in the future, or it will be split up, and we will believe our attention is in the present moment, but it is not. And I will show you later how to use the self-muscle testing to confirm this for yourself. So the defenses I mentioned take our attention out of the present moment. This can happen when we judge reality as unsafe, wrong, or bad. When it is not how we think it should be, or when we are experiencing something we don't want to happen. Sometimes it's when we experience an emotion that we're afraid to feel, like anger or fear, or sadness or grief, whatever. This means we are in resistance or cannot accept what is, and we will feel compelled to defend ourselves against it. We are believing reality is attacking us in some way and that we are vulnerable and weak, or otherwise we would not be defending ourselves. Once we use defenses, we are no longer accepting that God created us. The cause of the attack is perceived and experienced as separate and independent from our mind. By putting the cause of our suffering, fear, and pain outside of our mind, we have disempowered our mind, we have disempowered ourselves, and believe we are vulnerable and weak, and oftentimes we will be identified with our body, believing we are a body. Here, we believe we have changed how God created us, and so we believe we have usurped the throne of God and are therefore guilty of attacking Him. This is what needs healing in our mind, because that is not possible. It is not possible to oppose or attack that which is all powerful and infinite. So, in my opinion, the ultimate goal of the Ramos Clearing Technique and any other technique we use to help our mind heal is to help us be in a state of inner peace or inner acceptance or allowing. This comes with being willing to allow reality to be as it is in the present moment. This means perceiving with love so that our attention does not need to escape to past or future thoughts for safety, defense, and salvation. So, let's get ready to start with the technique. It does use self-muscle testing. If you do not use muscle testing, you will need another way to determine a yes or no answer, and also be able to select from a list of choices. Intuition can work just as well, but if you'd like to learn the muscle testing, I have several pages on my healingwitheft.com website, and you can begin to learn how to do the muscle testing there. It would be helpful if you have a copy of the Ramos Clearing Technique flowchart in front of you to be able to follow, since we have no video. But if you don't, it's okay. After the program, you can go to my website, under the tab for Ramos Clearing Technique. Sign up to receive the email with a free download, and then come back and re-listen to this audio recording. Also, if you downloaded the flowchart before May 15th, 2015, you will need to sign up and download it again because you will have the older version. So let's get started, and just bear with me while I issue a disclaimer. Please note, I am not a licensed medical provider. This information is presented for educational purposes only. The Ramos Clearing Technique is not a substitute for medical care, treatment, or diagnosis, nor is it a substitute for any other licensed, professional, legal, or other advice. In learning this technique, you are accepting full responsibility for its use, and the results are not guaranteed. I recommend that you begin using this technique with yourself first to get experience before using it with others. This tool can help you do a lot of your own clearing if you genuinely desire to know the truth. If you find there's resistance or fear to knowing the truth, then use this tool to release the resistance and the fear first. Also, you will need to be persistent because some of what you will be clearing will have many different triggers and be associated to many different situations and things. It's not that you're having to clear things more than once. It's that the same energy disruption shows up with different things, and those I call triggers. So also, if you have used the previous flowchart and find this one more complicated, feel free to keep using the previous one or use both. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to go over what is on the Ramos Clearing Technique flowchart first. Then I'm going to use it with some examples, and I'll take questions at the end if there's any questions. Okay, so if you take a look at the flowchart, the top left corner, it says Start. So you're going to take something that you are tuning into. It can be a belief, a judgment, a problem, an association, a conflict, an energy disruption, an emotion, a perception, a desire, a want. Basically anything that is disturbing your peace of mind. And as you tune into it, you can describe it in words, or you can just tune into it. You know, if it's like a sensation in your body or something like that. So, and of course, you need to be tuned into that disruption. And what I mean by that is that you need to have awareness of the effect it's having on you in some manner, to be able to clear it. You cannot clear something that has not come to your conscious awareness. And I'll make an exception later in a minute to that. Okay. Then the arrow takes us to the question: is this entangled in a situation? Okay, this is something that I just learned not too long ago, and it comes from a technique called Heal Now. And what it is, or the difference between EFT and the Heal Now, or one of the differences, is that EFT targets a specific energy disruption that is a problem or an issue. It is something specific that you have identified in your awareness. But what is included in what we are calling, and what Heal Now calls, an entangled situation, is anything else that pertains to what you are wanting to clear, okay, or that is associated with it, but is not in our conscious awareness. So this actually allows us to clear things that we are not directly tuned into. The way that I see it is like pulling up a weed from its root, which we can see and touch. But once we pull it out, we see that there were many other shoots connected to that main root that were underground and that we had not seen. So this is a pretty powerful idea, and it comes from the idea of morphic fields. I believe it's from a Mr. Sheldon. I can't remember his first name. I just barely ordered the book to read that. But I want to use it here because I tried this system and it was really effective. And so if you ask that question, is this an entangled situation, and you get a yes, then you go to the next block, which says commands from Heal Now. And there's several commands there. All you have to do is basically just issue the commands. And let's see. I'm going to go over them, but I want you to keep in mind that I'm going to interpret them using A Course in Miracles terminology. And that terminology is different than how Heal Now explains it. So I just want you to understand that because I'm not representing it the way that it is taught by the person that is doing this system and this technique. So the first command is align to center. And what that means is that we are aligning our attention to our one self. The second one is, and this connects us or identifies us with our one self. The next command is disentangle now the situation. And what this is doing is it's basically what A Course in Miracles calls undoing the past learning that is associated with the situation, or that is actually making up the situation, and is tangling it up. The next command is reintegrate the situation now. And this means that the situation, once it has been disentangled, it is now being perceived as it is, without the tangles, without the false thoughts. Then the next command is realign now. And this means that we're wanting to bring it into alignment with our highest purpose or highest good. And that we're taking the situation and placing it under the Holy Spirit or higher guidance. And the last command is resonate now, or resonate with highest good. And this means that we are placing the situation in alignment with truth and allowing it to reflect that. And so once you give those commands, and they can be very quick, it's just, align to center, connect now, disentangle now, reintegrate now, realign now, resonate now. You go back and you recheck to make sure that it is no longer an entangled situation. So you would ask again, is this an entangled situation? And then you get a no, and that takes you to the next block. Here we are asking whether this issue, or whatever this energy disruption is, if it is polarity reversing me, if it's splitting me, and sometimes there's shock and trauma there, if it's disassociating me from my body, if it's putting me in survival mode, and if it's identifying and attaching me to ego or body. So you can basically just ask each question, and you may get a yes for some and a no for some, or a no for all of them, or a yes for all of them. And so any yes will take you to the next block or oval. If you get all no's, you will skip the oval, and it will take you to the next step. So for now, assume that you found a yes. So we go to the next step, and here what we are asking is, do I want to be polarity reversed? Do I want this emotion? Do I want this anger to polarity reverse me, for example? That's why there's a blank there. So you fill in the blank with whatever it is that you're testing. The next question is, am I supposed to be polarity reversed? Is this anger supposed to be polarity reversing me? Is it supposed to be splitting my attention? Is it supposed to be identifying with ego body? And the next question is, am I identified or attached to it? Am I identified or attached to that anger? Am I identified, attached to that judgment, whatever it is that you're testing? And is this real? Is this anger real in the past? Is it real in the future? Is it real in the present moment? And it will be interesting for you to see which of those you get a yes or a no. Okay? You don't need to give too much thought to that. But so in that situation, either a yes or a no on any of those will take you to the next block, which is asking, is it bad or unsafe to let this go? It would be, is it bad or unsafe to let this anger go? Is it bad or unsafe to let this belief go? Okay. And if you get a yes, you're going to find out what is the block. Why is it bad or unsafe? And I'm giving you 3 options, and those are the only 3 options that I have ever found that block release. The first one is unforgiveness, the second one is fear, and the third one is trauma. And the trauma, well, depending on your situation, that may show up. I find now that that one doesn't show up as often. But once you find the block, you want to check to see if there's layers. So if you find, for example, anything blocking release and you get a yes on fear, you're going to go to the next block, which asks, is anything blocking that? Because what happens is that sometimes the blocks have layers that are protecting the layer. So you may find when you ask, is anything blocking that block of fear? You may get a yes, and then you'll have to ask the question again. What's blocking it? Unforgiveness, fear, or trauma? And sometimes it can alternate. It's not going to always be a layer of fear blocked by another layer of fear, by another layer of fear. Sometimes it'll alternate. It'll go to unforgiveness, and then it'll go back to a layer of fear. So what you want to do is you want to test that, about 3 or 4 times. Once you see the pattern, okay, and once you see that it keeps going, what you want to do is you want to assume that there's infinite layers there and ask if anything is blocking that. And then you will get a no. And then you can move to the next block to clear everything that you found. So that may not be completely clear to you now, but don't worry, I'm going to give you an example, and hopefully I will find something that has those layers of blocks there so that I can demonstrate that for you. So if you go to is anything blocking release and you get a no, then you don't have to test for more blocks, and you can go directly to the clearing. And the clearing is just basically tapping on the chest, or if you only have one hand to use, maybe you're holding something else in the other hand, or whatever. If it's inconvenient for you to tap on the chest, sometimes it's a little more discreet if you're in public to use one hand and simply hold your 5 fingers together. And that will do the same thing. It will clear everything that was found with all those questions that were previously asked. And while you're tapping on the chest or holding your 5 fingers together of one hand, you're just saying, clearing all of that. And so that's basically it. You're done. But what you always want to do is you want to recheck what you started with. Now, every once in a while, that situation will have more to it. So maybe now you will find that it is still part of an entangled situation and you will have to go through that. Or maybe you'll find that now it just has some polarity reversal. Or maybe it's just identifying you with your ego or your body. Okay, so you want to go through again until you come back to the beginning and it is not an entangled situation and you're getting all no's for, is it polarity reversing me, splitting me, whatever. And sometimes you may start with something that is simple enough that does not have any of that. In that case, go ahead and just use EFT tapping on it. Or you can just skip, some of those boxes and go down to, is it bad or unsafe to let this go, and see if you find something there. So this technique can be used in conjunction with EFT. It can be used in conjunction with other systems. For example, if you find with EFT that someone is polarity reversed and is not getting, or if you are not getting results when you're tapping on an issue because there's no self-acceptance in the setup phrase, and of course EFT does have a procedure for overcoming that polarity reversal there. You're supposed to really emphasize, I deeply and completely accept myself. But if you find for some reason that that's just not doing it for you, then you can use this and clear the polarity reversal. And then you can always go back to the straight EFT tapping or use this. What I find is that it is more helpful to go to the EFT tapping when you need to, tune into the problem, excuse me, and and you're looking for more. You're looking for what else could be connected to it, because the tapping gives you a little bit more space and more time to kind of bring up anything else that might be connected with what you're clearing. This technique can do that too, but you have to have a lot more practice in being able to tune in to more subtle energy disruptions to be able to pick up on it. But both of them can really train that skill of sensing the energy disruption and picking it up. Targeting more, just being able to hone in on it, basically. But in the case of methods like, for example, the Sedona method uses a question where it asks, can you let this be for now? Can you allow this to be for now? If you find that that's a no, that you have a lot of resistance to allowing that to be just for that one moment, you can come to this technique and ask, is this an entangled situation? Is this polarity reversing me? All of that. Is it bad or unsafe to let go? And then clear the blocks that are there, and then you can go back to use the Sedona method. And you can also use it for the other questions that are there. I think the third question says, can you let this go when? Now. And if you find that there's resistance and you're not really willing to let it go now, you kind of want to hold on to it, you can come back and use this technique to release that resistance. So let's see. That's basically all the explanation for the flow chart. So the first thing that I want to do as an example to help us bring our is to help us bring our attention to the present moment if it's not there already. So if you have the flow chart in front of you, I want you to begin by muscle testing. And even if you don't have the flow chart there, go ahead and just ask, where is my attention in the past, future, present moment? So go ahead and take a second or two to do that. I'm going to muscle test myself too. Let's see, where is my attention? Is it in the past? No. Is it in the future? No. Is it in the present moment? Yes. Okay, so just note where your attention is. And so mine is in the present moment. Now, if you found that your attention is in the present moment, there's one more question that you want to ask. And that is the present moment real? Okay, is the present moment real? Okay, and I'm getting a yes to that. Now, if you are upset about something or anything, if there's some energy disruption or if there's a split there, you're going to get a no to is the present moment real? And that will need clearing also. So what we want to do is use the flow chart. So for example, if you got the answer that your attention is in the past, in the future, or it's in the present moment, but the present moment is not real, you want to take what you found and you want to go through the chart. So you want to say, okay, is this an entangled situation? And you get a yes or a no, and you're going to go through the commands if it's an entangled situation. You're going to come back, recheck that. Once it's no longer an entangled situation, you're going to go to the next place, and you're going to ask, is this polarity reversing me, splitting me? Is there shock and trauma? Is it disassociating me? Is it putting me in survival mode? Is it identifying, attaching me to ego or body? And there's a lot there to ask. So just go ahead and take a minute to see if you find anything there. Okay. Now also keep in mind, since there is a lot of questions here, once you do this for a while, and you know the questions automatically, you can simply just say all of that, and the mind will go through and find the yes and the no's to all of that, so that you don't have to keep repeating the questions, because there are a lot of questions there. So if you found a yes to any of those questions, you want to go down to the next step, which is, do I want to have my attention in the past? Do I want the present moment to be unreal? Do I want my attention in the future? Okay. Am I supposed to have my attention in the future? Okay. Am I identified with having my attention in the future, or with having the present moment be unreal, or with having my attention in the past? Okay. And so here, if your attention is in the future, you would say, is the last part here doesn't work very well for this question, but you want to ask, is this real in the past? So is having my attention in the future real in the past? Is it real in the future? Is it real in the present moment? And sometimes we do get yeses to, is this real in the past and in the future? Okay? And that's okay, because when you ask, is this real in the present moment, you're going to get a no. And once the mind recognizes that it's not present, then it's not real in the present moment. If you go back and ask that question again, is this real in the past? You will get a no this time. Is it real in the future? You will get a no this time. Because once the mind connects to what is real and what is reflecting true, or what is perceptually true, it will not make the same perceptual mistake again. So that's why I included the question, is this real in the present moment? And so then, let's see, if you get, I'm going to give you a second to muscle test if you're doing this. So if you found any yes or no, then you go to asking, okay, for example, my attention is in the future. Is it bad or unsafe to let this go? So go ahead and ask that. And if you get a yes, you want to ask, is anything blocking release? Is unforgiveness blocking release? Is fear blocking release? Is trauma blocking release? If you get a yes for one of those, you want to take whatever you found and ask, is anything blocking that? So go ahead and do that. And then you want, if you got a yes there, you want to ask again, what's blocking? Is it unforgiveness? Is it fear? Is it trauma? Okay, if you get a yes, you have to come back where it says check and ask anything blocking that layer. Go ahead. And if you get a yes, you have to, it's a loop. You have to go back and ask, what is blocking that? Is it unforgiveness, fear, or trauma? So do that. Okay, and if you get a yes, you come back. Okay, and try it one more time. Is anything blocking that? Okay, and if you get a yes, what is blocking that? So do that. Okay, so if you're getting yeses here and you see there's a loop, okay, you don't have to keep asking, because it'll just keep going for, I don't know that it goes forever. I've never sat there and really tested for more than 3 or 4 times. You can just assume that there's infinite layers and ask, is anything blocking that? Meaning the infinite layers. So go ahead and ask that. Is anything blocking release of the infinite layers? Okay, you will get a no there. And then you can continue to tap on your chest to clear, or to just hold your 5 fingers together in one hand and say, clearing all of that, meaning everything that we found that had a yes, the mind is now releasing and letting go. Okay, and that takes you now to recheck, and you go back to the start. And you're going to ask the exact same thing that you started with. Okay, is this, my attention's in the future. Is this an entangled situation? My attention is in the past. Is this an entangled situation? My attention is in the present moment, but the present moment is unreal. Is this an entangled situation? If it's not, then you go to the next one. And if you don't find anything in the next one, then you're basically done. You're basically done. You can go one more and ask, is it bad or unsafe to let this go? But If you're not finding anything basically in the top two, um, unless you can sense that there still is something there, and some of you can, your muscle testing is that sensitive, you can kind of tell that there's still something there, or you're tuning into it. You can go to, is it bad or unsafe to let this go? And then you can do that part again. Is anything blocking release? And go through that part of the flow chart. Okay, so what we started with was wanting to help you bring your attention to the present moment, okay, and having the present moment be real. Now, this can take quite a bit of clearing. So if you go back and find that now you find that your attention is in the past. It was in the future before, but now it's in the past. It's a little bit like following, let's see, what Gary Craig calls with EFT, chasing the pain. So you're going to go back and ask again, okay, where's my attention? And now you find that it has shifted, and it's not in the future now, but it's in the past. Okay, so now you have to go through and do that whole process with the past. Okay, and sometimes when it's in the present and it's unreal, let's see. Sometimes there's something else that needs to be cleared there. I'm trying to remember. I'm not sure if I wrote it down. It'll come to me later. I'll bring it back up. But here's the thing: you don't need to completely bring your attention completely to the present moment. Okay, if your attention, for example, is in the future, or if it's in the present moment but it's not real, whatever you're going to be tuning into, you will still be able to clear with a flow chart. And then, in fact, if you clear some of that first, it might be easier to come back and try to bring your attention to the present moment, where the present moment is real later. Because if you're, for example, if you are tuned into a problem, say you have a present problem right now, and it's a little bit hard to focus on what's going on in the present moment, because you've got this other thing that's an energy disruption, and it's basically tugging for your attention. So you're better off going to that and using the flow chart to release that back, and practicing bringing your attention back to the present moment, where the present moment is real. Because ultimately, we want to be able to live with our attention in the present moment, and with it being real. In that state of mind, we are in a position to see reality more clearly, to perceive more clearly. And life is going to be smoother, and we're not going to be reacting from a place of our imagination, basically. We're not going to be so easily, triggered, you might say. Okay? But I also want to give you an idea or a feel for what I mean by the present moment, because many of us are not comfortable having our attention in the present moment. In fact, we may not really understand what that means, or we may not be able to identify that experience. So what I'm going to do is try to give you a sense of that experience. So I'm going to ask you a question, And I want you to find out the answer. But don't just assume the answer. It's a very simple question. I'm going to tell you ahead of time. It's so simple that you may just want to answer it by saying, well, of course, la da 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 da. Okay, but I don't want you to do that. I want you to find the answer. So, because I want you to pay attention to what you are noticing that is giving you the answer to the question. Okay? So here's the question. Are you breathing? Okay? The answer is going to be yes. But what did you notice that was telling you this? Okay, what did you observe? Did you notice your chest inflating and deflating? Did you hear the air coming in through your nostrils, maybe? So, in the moment where you were observing your sensory perception of what is telling you, oh, yes, yeah, I'm breathing, okay? Your mind, in that moment, your mind was completely free of thinking and was open to the perceptions that you were receiving through your body's senses. It was not judging the information because it was only noticing with an open and unbiased and, let's see, what's the other word? It was not invested in any way in having or noticing a particular thing there. And so this is called non-attachment. And this is how we experience, well, this is how we can experience reality in the present moment. And this is how we can open the space to connect with oneself that we are. It is also a very helpful state in muscle testing and in doing EFT with clients because we are getting our personal interests out of the way, and therefore the muscle testing will be more objective and more accurate. With working with others, it opens up a space where others feel safe, that you're not judging them, that you're not in some way wanting things to be, or for them to, to perceive things a certain way, and that allows them to feel like they can trust you and that they're safe. I also want to demonstrate how I use this with myself because this is primarily a self-clearing technique. And of course you can expand it to use it surrogately. But there is a big advantage, in my opinion, in doing it first with yourself because you get to observe how your mind thinks. And this will help you to help others undo or unravel their own entangled false ideas and perceptions. So I saved something from a couple of days ago so that I could clear it here. My son and I were having a conversation after I picked him up from taking his final. And he said, "Mom, you could probably teach a communications class." And this is a major that he was working towards last year. And I said, well, possibly, if they would tell me what I needed to teach, because I studied sociology. I did not study communications in college. But then I said, well, maybe you're saying that because I talk a lot about perception. And I did take the first 8 chapters in my book on self-esteem to explain perception. mostly because I see how misperception interferes with communication. And so he nodded yes to that. But after I said this, it reminded me of something I read in A Course in Miracles, that we make perception by contrast to the truth. I found that very, very interesting. And so that popped up. And so I wondered, okay, and I wondered something because I consciously only want the truth. Okay, I consciously only want to know the truth. But I'm very aware of all the other unconscious beliefs that I hold. So that's why I use the muscle testing. So I wanted to find out and double check whether there was a subconscious belief that contradicted my conscious desire to only want the truth. So I asked, do I want to make perception, or am I supposed to make perception? And I got a yes to that. So I want to use the chart to demonstrate how I would have done it right then and there. So I just start with that question. Do I want to make perception? And I get a yes. Okay. So I go to the oval there. Is this an entangled situation? And I get a no. So I go to the next box. Is this polarity reversing me? No. Is it splitting me? No. Is there chakra trauma? No. Is it disassociating me? No. Is it putting me in survival mode? No. Is it identifying me with ego? No. Is it identifying me, attaching me with body? No. All right, so I get to skip the next oval, and I go down to, is it bad or unsafe to let this go? And I get a yes. Okay, and I don't know what I'm going to find there because I'm just muscle testing it now. So I ask, is anything blocking release? And I get a yes. And so I ask, okay, is it unforgiveness? No. Is it fear? No. Is it trauma? And I'm getting a yes on trauma. So then I go to the next question, anything blocking that? And I get a no. So then I can go to the clearing, and here I'm just going to tap on my chest, and I'm just going to say clearing. Okay, and then I go back to the beginning to recheck. Okay, and the question was and is, do I want to make perception, or am I supposed to make perception? Okay, and I'm getting a no now. Okay, so and if I try to go to the next block, I don't even get any resistance on my finger. I use the finger over finger for self muscle testing, so I'm not getting any kind of resistance there at all. So basically that's cleared. And let's see what else. End of our time here, I want to see if there's anyone that has any questions. I don't see anyone with questions. So let me just look at my notes. And yes, so what I want to say is that I will be putting together a manual to go with this flowchart. And I also want to do a webinar with video to be able to teach it, because I think that it will be more clear for those people that are more visual. And I hope to have that ready in a month or two. So I will definitely post the date and where to sign up on my website, and I will send out an email when it's ready. I will be charging for the class, but I will do my very best to keep it to a very affordable price. And of course, if it's not affordable, definitely email me, and we can work something out, because you don't want to let the price, if you really want to learn this and work with this, do not let the price be a block, or just take that and use the flow chart. See if you can unravel that and release that and clear that for yourself. And okay, so that pretty much wraps it up for the Ramos Clearing Technique. If you do come up with other questions, feel free to email me at ramoshealing, and I will be very grateful if you do, because then I can include the response to your questions. I will definitely respond to your question, but I will also include it in the future class, and it will benefit everyone. So thank you for joining me, and blessings to everyone.
For more information about EFT, muscle testing, working with Eloisa, and to download a free version of the Ramos Clearing Technique, visit www.healingwitheft.com.